everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. It's good to be with you. Thanks for joining us. The White House is pushing back on reports that President Trump was briefed about an alleged plot by Russia to pay Taliban-linked fighters to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. That story was originally reported by the New York Times. Sources tell CBS News that intelligence agencies received information on the plot but could not agree on its accuracy. During Monday's White House briefing, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany reiterated that President Trump and Vice President Pence were not briefed on that intelligence.
The CIA director, NSA, National Security Advisor, and the Chief of Staff can all confirm that neither the president nor the vice president were briefed on the alleged Russian bounty intelligence. So intelligence is verified before it reaches the president of the United States, and in this case, it was not verified. I would note this, though, when the president, there's no stronger advocate for our servicemen and women than President Trump. He never hesitates to act when there is a threat.
Was he out of the loop by his own intelligence community?
No, as I noted, there was not a consensus among the intelligence community. And in fact, there were dissenting opinions within the intelligence community, and it would not be elevated to the president until it was verified.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration is also facing a surge in coronavirus cases in parts of the country. At least 7 states have reported a record number of new daily cases of COVID-19 since Friday. Texas reported more than 5,000 new cases for the 6th day in a row. That prompted Governor Greg Abbott to order all bars to close and limit restaurant capacity. Florida also reported more than 5,000 new cases today and at least 28 more deaths. This all comes as a new CBS News poll found partisan splits over wearing a mask, something that most health officials strongly recommend. 59% of Republicans said wearing one is a personal choice, while 76% of Democrats said it was a public health responsibility. Nikole Killion and Sean Sullivan join me now. Nikole is a CBS News correspondent, and Sean is a CBSN political contributor and national political reporter for The Washington Post. Hi, Nikole. Hi, Sean. Welcome to you both. Nikole, let me start with you. What is the White House saying about who knew about the Russians reportedly putting a bounty on American soldiers in Afghanistan?
Well, Elaine, they aren't saying, and you heard there in that soundbite from Kayleigh McEnany that, in essence, she just reiterated some of the points that we did hear from the White House over the weekend from the standpoint that the president and the vice president were not briefed on this alleged intelligence, that there was no consensus on these allegations, and that there were dissenting opinions about their veracity. And for that reason, she said, as you heard there, it was not elevated to the level of the president. What she also wouldn't say is she wouldn't speak to reports of whether U.S. service members have been killed under this alleged bounty program, which is something that is being reported as a possibility, something that is being looked into. She also would not say if the president has since been briefed now that all of this has come to light. We do know members of Congress apparently have or will. She did note that last night, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows did call Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, and there was a briefing, we believe, with some members today. We also have just learned from a senior administration official that House Democrats, some House Democrats will be at the White House tomorrow in reference to this issue.
So, Sean, if the president's claims are true that he was not briefed initially about the Russian bounty on American troops in Afghanistan, what does that suggest about the intelligence community's relationship with the White House?
Well, throughout the Trump administration, as we've seen from even previous reports, there have been questions raised about the intelligence community's relationship with the White House during this administration, whether these agencies are on the same page or not with the president, with his team, and with the White House. And so when you look ahead, that's a question I think Democrats are going to start to raise. I mean, they're already making this a political issue right now. We saw Vice President Biden within hours of this New York Times report that came out on Friday, coming back on Saturday and strongly criticizing the president. And so, as we get more details about this, I think we can expect Democrats to raise those questions about the relationship between the intelligence community and the president. and use it as part of a broader argument that they're trying to forward right now as we head toward the November election. And that argument that they're presenting is that he is not, President Trump is not an effective commander-in-chief. He is somebody who, in their view, should not be trusted to head the armed forces, to deal with some of these intelligence situations and some new developments that arise. So we'll see how this proceeds. But right now, clearly, Democrats eager to raise concerns about this development on the campaign trail.
Well, Nikole, the president says no one is tougher on Russia than he is. What evidence does he say supports that claim? Is there evidence?
Well, the White House pointed to a number of things, including sanctions, pulling out of the INF treaty, expelling Russian diplomats, but certainly many would argue to the counter. For instance, former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who had his tell-all book just come out, really suggest to the contrary as far as the president and Russia is concerned, that the president sometimes appears more sympathetic to Russia than to this country. For instance, when he held a summit with Putin 2 years ago. The Bolton recalls an episode where the president seemed to side with Putin over U.S. intelligence when it came to U.S. election meddling. Also, as we've heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Sean was talking about criticism from Democrats. That's certainly a point that many Democrats have raised, including Pelosi, who suggests that Russia may have something on the president. That being said, the president has made clear, as has the White House, that they do feel that they have been tough on Russia. Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany was asked, though, specifically today, whether or not the president has a message to Russia in light of these reports, and she simply would say that she would not get ahead of the president at this time.
Well, Nikole, we mentioned the surge of coronavirus cases. In Texas yesterday, Vice President Mike Pence encouraged people to wear masks. Kayleigh McEnany today said the president believes it is a personal choice. What is the administration's policy when it comes to masks?
Well, I don't know if there ever was a firm policy. Certainly, the administration has always pointed to CDC guidelines. And look, from the outset of this pandemic, the president made clear that he probably wasn't going to wear a mask. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily surprising that he's still not wearing a mask, because he kind of put it out there from the get-go. But what the press secretary said today is that he is not opposed to wearing a mask. He does feel that it's a personal decision and that it's important people abide by their local guidelines. Some of this came in reference to a question about Jacksonville, Florida, which actually is issuing a mask mandate today. And that's significant because, of course, that's going to be the new site of the Republican National Convention. We know, obviously, that was moved to Florida because of some of the restrictions that Republicans were facing in Charlotte. What isn't clear in terms of the city of Jacksonville is how they may try to enforce this mandate, whether they will enforce it during the RNC if things go on as planned.
Right, very much an open question. So, Sean, Joe Biden is set to deliver remarks in Delaware tomorrow, and he's expected to underscore some conflicting messages from the administration. Tell us more about that.
Well, when you look at the Biden campaign and what they've been arguing over the past several weeks here is that this administration has been ineffective and irresponsible with the way that it has dealt with the pandemic, the way that it has confronted not just the public health issues, but the economic challenges presented by the pandemic. And so this has been an issue that the Biden campaign really, really wants to underscore day in and day out. And what they want to try to do is present Joe Biden as a responsible alternative to the administration. When you look at the recent events that the vice president has done, he almost always makes the point of wearing a mask right before he started speaking. There was an event recently where he walked to a podium in a mask and then took it off. When he does virtual events, he does often the same thing. He's trying to present himself as somebody who, on the health part of this, is a more responsible leader and somebody who can set, in their view, a better example for the country. When he holds events, he's not holding big rallies like the rally that President Trump recently held in Oklahoma. He's holding smaller scale events where people are spaced out, encouraged to practice social distancing. And, I think we can expect in this event and beyond that is a message that the Biden team is going to continue to underscore. What they've said repeatedly is that the administration was too slow, too ineffective in dealing with this pandemic, and that they put the blame on for some of the economic problems that the country is facing. But they've also said, look, the president has not thought through his plan for reopening the country, and we're going into this without any clear plan. And as we see these cases spike, I think the campaign is going to be talking about this more and more. It's a contrast they want to draw, again, both on economic grounds and on public health and public safety grounds. And if you look at the overall polls right now, it's an argument that broadly across the board seems to be working. Biden is doing pretty well in swing state polls, in national polls. So it's some of the same messaging that we've seen from the Biden campaign throughout the last few weeks here.
All right, Nikole Killion and Sean Sullivan for us. Great to see you both. Thanks very much.